when I first came to Pennsylvania, there seemed to be a real need to have husbands and wives, something they could experience to revitalize their married life. And so we started what we call the Sweetheart Banquets. That started about the second or third year we moved to Pennsylvania. And I was on the national board of the Religious Broadcasting Association and had asked the board to provide a banquet facility for a banquet. We put it together. Bob Neff, the former Youth for Christ director in Lancaster, a big group, and he was well experienced on the platform. He was our MC, song leader, and so
about what year was this? The Sweetheart Banquet started?
That started about 1970, about 3 years after we'd gone there. And so we started. I had to leave for Washington for our meeting, and I'd mentioned on the radio we're going to have one, and they phoned down there and said, well, the banquet hall filled up the first day or two. What are we going to do? I said, well, see if you can schedule another one, which they did, and people enjoyed it. And the next year we went to, I don't know, perhaps 6 or 8 banquet halls. At the peak of it, our secretary, Bev Earhart, and her husband Paul, they scheduled and did most of the work for the Sweetheart Banquets. They said on occasion, or some years, let me back up. We had our Sweetheart Banquets during February, surrounding this Valentine's Day, and we would arrange for, I did no advertising other than mention on the radio we were going to have another Sweetheart Banquet. So, but they were to make the reservations and had to come to the office to get them if they wanted priority. So we opened our reservations the first business day after New Year's, January 1st. And they said that on occasion that there were enough people that came to their office at daylight. In fact, many of them would bring coffee and donuts and sit in the parking lot, so it'd be first in line to get tickets for Valentine's Day. They like to have the banquet as close as they could to July 14th or February 14th. And on occasion there would be 3,500 reservations booked by sunup. So it went over very well. There would be groups come in. One year we had 55 different groups come in, different churches. Some of them were 50, 75 in a group. So 500 in a banquet didn't take long to fill up. Some years we went up to 18, 20 banquets. We'd have a Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, starting in February. Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday next week. And fill out February. When we didn't have any more of those days available in February, then we went into March until we filled up most of the requests. And that was at the peak of it. Not all the years are that way. Bob Neff said that he and I together had some 255 banquets together on the Sweetheart theme. And it was the same theme every year. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. I used different scripture to support it and different illustration, but it was the same message. And they came and they came and they came. There were a few couples that came every year for 18 years. And during that time we had many victories, many marriages. And then we're still, I can scarcely go around the Lancaster County, even today, being recognized, and then they'll bring up some comment about the Sweetheart Banquets as well as the radio broadcast. So that was concurrent to continuing on the radio. Then in about 88, Dr. Dobson was coming on strong by that time, doing a far better job than me. And it was on the same theme. I think he got some of my notes, or I had some of his, and we were on the same page. And I thought it was time to bow out, and I'd do it again. The timing was right. I came in for the Keys to Better Living provided a special time that there was a vacuum there. In fact, when I started, there wasn't a psychiatrist between Chicago and Wichita, a Christian one. But then Dr. Naramore and I had the radio broadcast from coast to coast. We had stations, about 40 stations from Washington to Florida. So we had pretty good coverage over the country. I made some 6,200 and some broadcasts for 23 years, every day, 15 minutes, Monday through Friday, vacation throughout the year.
And the thresher that he and I remember carrying water for, and Richard, I guess you probably.
Well, then they had a team with a water wagon. It had to bring the water in for the steam, and then if we get low on water, they'd blow the whistle, blow the whistle, and they'd hurry up and bring the water, or they'd have to stop we'd run out of power. And this, of course, this blower comes off here and blows a pile of. And then, that reminds me, right here in the shade, there should be 3 or 4 jugs. And then everybody, when you get thirsty, you come and you always pick the one that the guy that chewed tobacco, you watch, see which one.
Yeah, you didn't hear that.
He didn't drink out of the one he spit in?
You didn't use his one. Then you take the jug and you go dirt like that. That's supposed to cleanse it. And then you swing it over your shoulder and you drink a half a gallon of water, but just hoping it wasn't the guy
that was the art of growing up, was mastering that jug there that you. And quite often they were either a syrup jug or a crock,
Also, of course, they weren't plastic; they were heavy.
a heavy thing. So you kind of to hold it, you got it there, and you swing it up in the arm and gurgle down a good bit. Like Richard said, that you got. I can't think of the one that used to chew tobacco, but you watched one that he drank out of and didn't.
Then at home we used to have a gallon vinegar jug. Dad would wrap a gunny sack around it, put some nails and holes on.
Yeah.
Then we fill it before we go to the field. Then as we hooked up the horse, we drop it in the water tank, the horse tank, to soak it.
Soak it up,
And then take it out, hang it over the hame of the horses, the harness hame, to carry it to. Then we'd go up the field and put it behind a post and some grass over it. And that would be our supply of water for the. And we'd go through a gallon of water in the morning, a gallon of water in the afternoon, probably a gallon of water in the evening. We'd drink 3 or 4 gallons in a day.
That's right. We had to. It was but that was our portable water cooler.
Yeah, that was. Yeah.
What's the other?
I'll show you one more picture here that I had out here, and that's your heritage. That's your great grandfather.
Got lighting there for you.
Mm-hmm.
A great grandfather, Canfield. And that was Dad, or our father, and that was great. The one with the gray beard at top, right by Dad, is Frank Canfield.
Point out your dad again.
Right here.
This is Dad.
So he'd be your great grandfather.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was that right? You're one, and that's the second.
That's second. That'd be the third.
Third, yeah, and that's
the third. Yeah.
And that was his family, and he had 6 girls and 3 boys, and a bunch of spouses. Do you recognize any of them?
There's Merle, and there's
That's
Frank,
right.
and there's.
Well, that's the one. That's Ema's.
Was that Eamon? Okay.
Whatever his name was.
Okay.
I was trying to
That's
see
a good
Uncle
picture.
Merle.
That's a good picture.
It is a good picture, though.
That picture's what? Well over 100 years old.
It has a name on it. I don't know.
Some writing there.
Maybe a date on it. Maybe your marks. You
I'm
probably
glad you
can't
showed
see
that.
it, but you may be some dating on it there. That
Very good.
I found another one here. I thought this is the one that Beth Richardson's boy. That would be.
Okay. He's the one that went to England.
He went to England.
And got some history of.
And this is a mother's family in England in 1884 in Cornwall, and that's where she came from. And that would have been Grandma Lois's mother right there. And that would be 3 of Richard and my aunts that on her lap. And her brother, her father, Grandma Canfield's, or Grandma Lois Canfield's father was a fellow back on the dray. It was a kind of a mower
And
or
what year was that taken? That was taken.
1884.
Mother wouldn't be in that then.
No.
She was born in 98.
Yes, I think it said on her lap was Owen and Perry and Effie.
That would be the oldest boys.
Mm-hmm.
That was before that picture was taken in England, before they came to America.
Yep, photo taken in Cornwall, England, 1884.
Do you have that manifesto or something when they came aboard or came to America and writing out the names, and their names were on the ship manifesto?
I don't know that I do. I did run. I've got some other stuff downstairs. We might want to go. But this is what Uncle Perry gave Grandma Sarah, grandmother's mother, when they left on their trip to America.
This was a sheet of a board ship.
No, I don't. I have not seen that. I don't know who.
Who would have that? It's a ship manifesto of the passengers, and it was signed when it came into America to Statue of Liberty.
Oh,
Where,
I've not seen that.
Okay, all right. Good focused. Don't think you do much better.
Okay, folks, I'm gonna go pump some gas, ready for the trip. You guys keep our viewers company while I'm gone.
We're on camera then.
You're live.
Okay, we're live then. We just arrived in Beatrice, and Don saw Mary Ann and chatted a bit, and Don showed us his showcase of his artistic carving. Remarkable, many of them, well, most of them. Remarkable. I would like to say more about them. We're plans now while Mark is fueling up now, we're going down to Chester. We'll be coming by Hubble, and then down the state line, and then to the farm, and then Donald and I are going to try to reminisce a bit and pick out some of the more succinct and interesting and hopeful, memorable events that we've experienced over the years together, and remembering some of the things of Dad and Mother's doings and some of the great times we've had on the farm. So that brings us up to date, Donald. And what would you envision today? What are some of the things you think we should cover?
Well, as I said to Mark, we're probably going down through country that is only in our minds because
Speak up a little more.
It's changed so much. So many things have gone by the wayside or passed on. So again, we're kind of reliving some of the memories as we remember them when we were young, and when our folks were young, and in a different era, the era of the Depression. They sounded like bad years, but to us they were good years. We're very grateful to, as we get older, to be thankful for the parents that we had and for the times that we grew up. We learned a lot of lessons in those days that perhaps aren't being taught just because of the situation of the times and the culture. So they are memories. Many of them I would maybe call them bittersweet, or some memories make you happy, and some make you happy on one side, but it's more of an emotion that those things are no longer here. They cannot even be seen, only through the eye of our memories. But we thank the Lord for memories, for good memories. Thank Him for helping us to cancel out the memories that aren't quite so good and remember the good ones. So it's great to be with Mark, younger generation with a vitality and vision and positive thinking, and we thank you for him. We need young Christian men that are willing to lead our country and our communities, and above all to train this generations growing up in marvelous times, but yet very, very disturbing at times. We pick up on our media all the dregs around the world and bring them into our living room, and we have to sort those out and remember that this has been going on since God created the earth.
Okay,
Okay,
Mark
thank
is
you
fueled
for the
up
day.
now. We're on our way. While we're traveling through Beatrice here, and then we'll pick it up again and as we approach Hubble, I was thinking, Don, of our communication this morning, what we have available now as we go down home. Are you ready to take off, Mark?
Mm-hmm.
We'll back home. I was mentioning on the tape that when the schoolhouse caught on fire, the way for communication was go to the telephone on the wall and give it a crank and ring 4 or 6 longs. Do you remember?
No, I just remember you rang and
You rang 4 longs. Our number was 2 shorts. So the communication that day was there'd be 4 or 5 on a country line. Our number was 4302. Our line was number 43. 02 meant shorts. It would have been 4320. It would have been 2 longs. And you could call anyone on the telephone on your line by 2 longs or 2 shorts or long and a short or short and a long. We all knew our own ring. And when we'd hear 2 shorts, that was our call. So we'd pick up the receiver on the side of the telephone that was hung on the wall and, of course, answer it. If it were 4 longs, that meant there was an emergency in the community, normally a fire. And that's what happened when the schoolhouse caught on fire. That's how the neighbors soon learned that the school's on fire. Kind of interesting with our communication then, Don, that was Mother's probably main source of communication. She'd call Aunt Hazel and talk maybe for a half hour. Dad used to kid her that. But we had no newspaper, we had no radio, had no television. We saw maybe our neighbors once or twice a week. No communication, knew very little of anything what was going on locally, let alone nationally, let alone internationally. And so, but that was our limited communication. And oftentimes it was all right. They all did it. If we were particularly interested in some neighbor, or there was some gossip going around, if we heard their telephone ring, well, you could lift up your receiver and you could be privy to anything they were saying. So much of the news has gotten second-handed, hearing 2 other neighbors talk about things, and the news was local gossip and not too much substance to it. But now that was our telephone. And no radio. Practically knew nothing what was going on. Now today, here we are writing, and Mark has transformed his truck here into a studio. And we contacted you, Don, with our cell phone. And if we were in a metropolis here, we have a GPS. The other day I was at near midnight in Baltimore, lost downtown, didn't know where I was. We go straight on through here. And I might mention, while we're passing through Main Street here in Beatrice, a little bit to the right was where Don's office was for some years when he was the manager of the farm, what do you call it?
Federal Land Bank.
Federal Land Bank. And he was a director here in the Beatrice area before he moved out on. So that's to the right here, wasn't it? A couple of blocks around, Don?
Yes, your memory's good.
Right in here somewhere.
On Ella, just a block straight down there.
Well, and he was also farm bank manager in Iowa, and also, what was it?
Nebraska.
In Nebraska, northeast. Northeast Nebraska, near the Iowa border. So Bassett, Nebraska, 3 different locations. But our transportation now, we have our telephone, cell phone, we have our GPS, which when we get in the big city, I used ours yesterday. We have the GPS. I have my computer with me, and I hook on my computer with my Bluetooth, and I can take a picture with my digital camera now, put it on the computer, and send it by my email, and send a picture anywhere in the country in a minute or so if I do the right thing with all the equipment we have. And that's the change that's happened in our life. But today, as we go back to the farm, we had practically no communication, because radios came in when I was in probably high school. We got our first radio and had 2 or 3 stations, and it opened a new vista of a new world to us, a new culture. We got gospel, a few radio stations on Sunday. We had Dr. Brown, and that was our mainstay with Dr. Brown at the Tabernacle in Omaha on WOW. Tremendous minister, and did a lot for mother and dad in our Christian encouragement. It was the highlight of the week would be to hear Dr. Brown Sunday mornings on WOW. And then Sunday afternoons would be the old-fashioned revival hour by Dr. Fuller in California and Dr. Myers of the Lutheran hour. And there was one other main broadcast, because you cannot get radio time during the week then.
Old-fashioned revival hour out in California.
Yes. You only could get it on Sunday afternoon, only on Sundays. There was no daily radio broadcast.
And what years would have this been? About what time?
That would have been in the 30s. The 30s. And then occasionally we could get the Stamps Quartet, or the Blackwood Brothers over KMA, Shenandoah, Iowa. That was one of our main stations. So the communication is just such a change.
Richard, geologically,
You speak up a little loud, Don, show you that.
I was thinking we just, memory is kind of getting carried away here today, but we just crossed the Rock Island line that goes through our home area, Belleville, and that was the train that we took to go back to Wheaton.
Yes.
We went back to Iowa for your wedding. That was our commute. Came through Beatrice and through Lincoln, coming from Denver. The railroad that we'll see when the old CB&Q that went through our farm is now, in recent years, has been abandoned, and it's reverting to the old roadbed. It's reverting back to the landowner. But we'll see that when we go through, because that was part of our history too. Your history as a grade schooler of piling rocks on the track to see whether they knock them off, or you were flattening coins. I don't think you'd be flattening coins, but you did have rocks.
Yeah, we'd flatten
And if I remember you telling me right, you piled some rocks on there and they came along with a little hand car and threw them off. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, we were
You scattered.
We were down at Grandma's, and a bunch of us cousins, we decided to put some rocks on the track, and we were expecting the train to come along. Instead, a one-man hand car came along. When he hit those rocks, we were scared, because he was bouncing around, and we ran and hid. I remember that. But now, is the Rock Island still open, or is it still?
The Rock Island comes to Belleville.
Yeah, is it still running? But the Burlington that went through, Hubble and Chester, it shut down a few years ago.
Yes.
They've been abandoned.
Yes. No, the Rock Island stops at Belleville, and it goes west. I think they still get train into Belleville for grain, but I think it's just it just is a track that comes in for a few elevators that are left there.
Now, which way should we go here? Shall we Shall we go through February?
Let's go see where we are.
Go through February.
We'll take the curve up here and go. They would come up to about a couple miles, and we'll take 4 right on down to Hubble.
Okay, I
Go to Fairbury and then jog and go down to Hubble. Yeah.
Okay. Shut her off for a moment now, if you will.
So a lot of much of my life was spent. Younger life was you were gone.
Yes.
But I do remember a number of things, and I think I mentioned them before. You remember the skunk incidences?
No.
Do you remember the time that we were going to town and we had that 29 Chevy? I remember it was right. And you had read that skunks will not smell if you grab them by the tail. That they weren't able to spray you.
I think it's still true.
And, well, it may be, but the theory didn't totally plan out that way. We stopped right by Dake's, an old Dake place. A mother and a whole string of skunks went across the road.
Yeah, single file.
And we stopped, and you wanted to test your theory or your information, and you went out and grabbed one by the tail. I don't know how you got it without getting sprayed. But you carried around, and yes, you weren't overwhelmed. But when you got back in the car, you brought a I was just born. As soon as I was old enough to get out of the folks' bedroom, they moved that bedroom, that wooden baby bed, into the back, that room that we lived in.
Yeah.
You know, that addition that was put on, Doris had a room, and you and I stayed in the other one.
Yeah.
I slept at the end of that bed in my, it wasn't the cradle, but it was the baby bed, until I was able to get out of that, and then we slept together in the bed.
Till I left for college.
Till you left for college. But that was what, 4 or 5 years. But one memory in my mind is that you had apparently a Model A or some car, and you would go to town for some school event. You'd come back at night, late at night, or after dark anyway. And when you would come up the hill there north by Dakes, top that hill, then those lights would shine in that north window.
Yeah.
And I remember Mother, our closet was just a shelf with a rod underneath to hang our clothes in, so she put sheets down to cover that area. And when they would come in there, that light would shine in on those sheets, and they would move, and they looked like ghosts to me. And so I can always remember, I knew you were coming, but I had my head under the blankets until you came in, or you came in and shut the lights off. But it would dance on those white sheets of the movement of the car.
That's interesting.
And then in the summertime, you remember, it got hot in there. We had that screened-in porch, and we would go out and sleep on the old bed.
Are we on?
Don't worry about it. Just keep going.
An old bed on the porch. But you remember how that sun came up so hot in the morning? And then do you remember getting up feeling like you'd wet your pants? The whole sheets were wet because of the dew from the
night.
From the night. Yes.
But I know in the summertime, for years I slept out on the porch during most of the summer.
Yeah. Well, I can remember that we both did for a time because it was so warm in there.
Why don't you reminisce the story that